Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly forgotten why you went there? Or maybe someone introduced themselves, and just a few minutes later you couldn't remember their name. It happens to almost everyone. Sometimes we forget where we placed our phone, what we were about to say, or even something we learned just yesterday. It can feel frustrating, and you might even wonder if something is wrong with your memory. But here's the surprising truth. Forgetting is not always a problem. In many cases, forgetting is actually a very important function of the brain. Before we explore this fascinating mystery, take a quick moment to like this video and subscribe to Brain Aura. If you enjoy discovering powerful secrets about how the human brain works, on this channel we explore the science behind thoughts, emotions, and memory in ways that help you understand your mind better. Now let's think about how much information your brain receives every single day. From the moment you wake up, your senses begin collecting data. You see faces, hear conversations, read messages, watch videos, and notice hundreds of tiny details around you. Every second, your brain is processing new information. If your brain tried to store every single detail permanently, it would quickly become overwhelmed. Imagine your brain like a huge storage room. Every day, thousands of new boxes arrive filled with information. Some of those boxes contain important memories, like meaningful conversations, important lessons, or emotional experiences. But many boxes contain small details that don't really matter in the long run, like the color of a random car you passed on the street or a sentence you barely paid attention to. Your brain has a system that decides which information should stay and which can be removed. Forgetting is part of that system. It helps the brain focus on what is truly important while letting unnecessary details fade away. One reason we forget things quickly is something called weak encoding. Encoding is the process of turning information into a memory that the brain can store. If you are distracted, tired, or not paying much attention, the brain may not fully encode the information in the first place. For example, if someone quickly tells you their name while your mind is focused on something else, your brain may not create a strong memory of it. Later, when you try to remember the name, the information simply isn't there because it was never fully stored. Another important reason we forget things is that memories need reinforcement. When neurons in the brain communicate repeatedly, their connections become stronger. But if those connections are not used again, they may weaken over time. Think of it like a path through a forest. If people walk along the path every day, the trail becomes clear and easy to follow. But if nobody uses the path for a long time, plants and grass begin to grow over it, making it harder to see. In the same way, unused neural connections in the brain gradually weaken, causing memories to fade. Sleep also plays a major role in memory. During sleep, especially deep sleep, the brain reviews information collected during the day and decides which memories should be stored long-term. If you do not get enough sleep, this process becomes less effective. That means your brain may not fully strengthen the connections needed to keep certain memories. Emotion is another powerful factor that influences memory. Experiences connected with strong emotions are often remembered more clearly. When something exciting, scary, or meaningful happens, emotional centers in the brain signal that the moment is important. As a result, the neural connections linked to that event become stronger. That's why you might clearly remember a special celebration, an exciting trip, or a surprising moment from years ago, but forget what you had for lunch last week. The emotional importance of the experience helps decide which memories stay strong. Sometimes forgetting happens because new information interferes with older memories. This is known as interference. For example, if you learn several similar passwords or phone numbers, they may start mixing together in your mind. Your brain struggles to separate them, and recalling the correct one becomes harder. There is also something interesting called retrieval failure. In this situation, the memory is actually stored in your brain, but you cannot access it at that moment. Later, something triggers it, and suddenly the memory comes back. This happens often with names or words. You might feel like the answer is right on the tip of your tongue, but just out of reach. Then, hours later, the word suddenly appears in your mind when you are not even trying to remember it. The memory was always there, but your brain needed the right cue to retrieve it. Another fascinating part of forgetting is that the brain actively clears out certain information. Scientists believe the brain sometimes weakens unnecessary connections on purpose. This process helps maintain balance in the brain's network, so that important information remains easier to access. In other words, forgetting is not always a failure. It is part of the brain's strategy for staying organized and efficient. The good news is that there are ways to improve memory and reduce forgetting. Paying close attention when learning something new is one of the most powerful methods. When you focus fully on information, your brain creates stronger neural connections. Repetition is another helpful technique. Reviewing information several times strengthens the pathways between neurons, making the memory easier to recall later. This is why students often repeat important information while studying. Connecting new information to something you already know also improves memory. When your brain links a new idea to an existing memory, it becomes part of a larger network of connections. Healthy habits also play an important role. Getting enough sleep, reducing stress, staying mentally active, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle all support the brain's ability to store and retrieve memories. Here on Brain Aura, exploring these brain secrets helps us understand that our minds are incredibly complex systems. Forgetting is not simply a weakness. It is part of how the brain manages the huge amount of information it receives every day. The next time you forget something small, remember that your brain may simply be focusing on what it believes matters most. It is constantly sorting, organizing, and updating the memories that shape your life. Now, I'm curious about your experience. What is something you forget most often? Is it names, where you place things? Or maybe passwords? Share your answer in the comments because it's interesting to see how different people experience memory. And if you enjoyed learning about why we forget things, share this video with a friend who loves psychology and brain science. Don't forget to subscribe to Brain Aura for more fascinating brain secrets that will help you understand your mind in a completely new way. Your brain is constantly learning, remembering, and sometimes forgetting, and all of it plays a role in how you experience the world.